All right. Oh, we gotta get the lights on. Ah! Hello, and welcome back, everybody. I'm late to the stream. Sorry, boys. Slow start today. I had to go to the Dollar Tree, get some more TP and other things. Welcome in, everybody. I'm gonna test something out here. I want to see if I can get this chat thing to work. So hold on. Let's test this out. Give me 1 second. Let's copy this. Let's see. It's not there. Okay, now let's go back to this and let's go here and say, huh. We'll see if anybody comes in here, what happens. Alright, we're seeing if this works. No. Let's go to this thing. Bear with me, everybody. We're gonna see here if we can get this chat to work. Make it go up. So put it above me, like so. Now what happens if I shrink this to like, okay, so it auto formats then to the size of the window. Put that there. And then let's do the sub count. Just in the top. We could put it over here. There we go, like that. Okay. All right, so the chat is not working. We got to figure out why it's not working. It's linked. My sign-in is working. All right, let's just put in the chat URL here, I guess. Oh, into the pop-out chat URL. Okay. Huh. um, featured chat overlay. Pause play. Nobody be chatting. I hit that. Now you got a fake message. It's not picking up the YouTube chat here. So we want to test it out on Twitch. See if the Twitch chat comes in at least. Oh, there we go. Aha, here we go. Now we're getting something here. So let's go ahead and message styling. I gotta make this text smaller. How do I make this text smaller? Okay, here we go. Word. Let's see here. We've got some features here. It says message effects, fades in, smooth message mechanics. Make chat input the full menu bar. Overlay. Copy that, paste it into here and see what happens. Okay, now we get a test message here. This is the behind the scenes of a Dollar Tree streamer. Okay, not too shabby. What's the height of this guy? No, not this guy. This guy. What's the height? Want to match it. What's the height of this? Transform. Like that. Let's see. Oh, whatever. Let's do this then. Let's go webcam. Transform. Sorry, you guys, we're getting this situated. Edit transform. 100. Wow, look at him. Shoot. Whoops. Not mean to do that. Okay, whatever. It's fine. Okay. Now the chat's not working again, unless nobody's messaging. Let's see here. Huh. Is it not working anymore? It's not working anymore. Ah, no. So chat overlay, make overlay smaller. Okay, so now that completely got rid of my chat. Why did that get rid of my chat? Oh. Well, I'm confused. Well, that brought it back. Now is it that normal big size again? Yeah, it's huge. I don't get it. If I copy this link into my chat, it goes away. Why? Thing, I don't know what to do. Hide menu bar. This is copy. Paste it here. Where's that? And it's not even pulling any messages though from my. There we go. Okay, let me look up best custom chat CSS. me see. I don't really have any CSS on it before. Sorry, you guys, this is probably so boring. But I have to do this while we're live so I can figure out. The Twitch isn't working though, which is annoying. Yeah, I have a friend request. Sorry, man, I didn't see it. Why is this cut off? Oh, there we go. We'll make this. Transform, edit transform. Bruh. Okay, let's move this to there. Bring this in. And then we bring the sub count up. Come on. There we go. Okay, like that. Now, how do I say give me custom OBS chat CSS for smaller font size? I'm not gonna write this. I just want chat to do it, GPT to do it. All right, let's take that. I never copy chat GPT type. Let's put this into here. See the styles. Ugh. The thing is the Twitch isn't working either, which is frustrating because that's the whole point of this. Message styling. Threshold. Customs. Oh, here we go. Okay, now let's go here. Now it's gone. Nah, Mahan, I don't want to give any of my. I don't want to leak anything on accident. Let me just copy this body then. Oh, it blipped there. Ah. Okay, threshold, make larger. Compact mode. Text outlining. Oh well, what's going on now? Oh, it was just transparent, that's why. No alternate background shading. Constant donation color. No. Let's search size. My dog is coughing. What you doing, dog? What the dog doing? We'll just make him smaller. Entire page partially transparent. Let's loosen background page. Okay, message mechanics. Hide message, only delete messages. Unsure which. Start at the bottom. Line, reload. Okay, message, text to speech. Oh, text to speech. There's text to speech on this thing. Oh my gosh. Hide source icon. Okay, we'll hide the source. No, we'll keep the source icon. Only show Twitch messages. Source to show channel icon. Hide badges. No, hide timestamps. Hide messages. Strip HTML. Ignore emojis. Replace links with link. Decrease outline just wait. Okay, so that currently gives me this. Okay, so now we have this almost translucent window, which looks pretty cool. Now someone give me a chat. Tim or Mahan, you have to go into Twitch and test the Twitch. So I don't think it's working still. That looks pretty good. There's the current view count in the top right. Text to speech with AI. Beep when new message. That'd be so annoying. Okay. Oh, the Twitch works! Yo! We're linked up. Look at that. Okay, now we just got to remove the person's profile picture and reduce their name, right? So, let's say message visibility, color names, if a color if it was available. I know we'll keep the source icon. Hide avatars. There we go. Use first names only. Hide name icon. Increase that. Okay, let's take that. Copy link. Put this here. All right. Nice. We got one person on Twitch, 9 on YouTube. Look at that. Alokin45 on Twitch. I can see you. Welcome. We need to move over the sub count slightly. Or should we move it over here? I can't see it. It's too. There we go. I think that's good. Okay, we'll keep it like that. All right, here we go. We are live. I know we had to kill Mahan's last name. So I kind of just want the text to be a little bit smaller. So I might need to add some custom CSS to. So font size. So if I go here, if I go to custom CSS, and the message styling, and I go, what's it called? Is it called a font? CSS. Oh, I haven't done CSS in a while. What's what would be the, I guess it'd be in body, right? Like it has there, and then just do font. Basically this here, and then close that up. Okay, so now if I copy that, go here, paste, give me a dummy message. Oh, there we go. But the username is really big too. Okay, so I'm gonna take this into my CSS here, paste it, but then I'm gonna go into here and go font size, remove that, remove all of that, remove all that. Well, okay, so now if I take this, hopefully that works still. Okay, now we trigger a test message. um, Still really big. Um, okay, so we'll copy this. It'll let me copy it, jeez, come on. And then we can paste this into here. Alright, we gotta move on from this. This is getting boring. And then go up to here. Paste this. Yeah, see that's no good. It doesn't like some of these. Why can't I make stuff smaller? Why isn't it like as simple as just making it smaller? Alright. Just wish it was smaller. Delete needs entirely show message. Styling, align, padding, compact mode. Yeah, I did that one. Large of avatar on profile, make emojis larger. Just give me CSS to make the chat smaller for the message and username. Okay, so let me just take this. That's all I want. So now we go up to here. Copy this. Paste that there. Okay, now test message. Here we go. That doesn't look too bad. What do you guys think? A little bit smaller? Is it working? Um, let's go here. I want to make this like 2 and this like 2 and see if that works. If that does like a drastic difference. We gotta move on. I'm sorry, you guys. This is so boring, I bet you. Just trying to get the chat so everybody can chat together here. See, what's up with this emoji stuff happening? Facebook. I don't get it. Message, styling. So let's delete that and that. And let's see what happens. Copy, paste there. No, it's not doing anything. But why is it doing all those weird, like... Hide messages, hide source icon. Show channel icon. Channel icon. What is channel icon? Hide basic message shorter than 5 characters. Huh, okay, let's just move on. I think that's fine enough. We can improve it as we go. I think that's good enough. Okay, let's get into the stream. Sorry, you guys, that was probably so boring. 40 minutes of just watching me debug the chat here. So lame. I'm sorry, you guys. I apologize. I appreciate you guys being here and joining me. Let's go ahead and get this stream started without further ado. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get this going. Let's put in the headphones. Let's get going here. Oh, yeah. Because it's transparent now. All right, that's good enough. Okay. Alrighty, look at that. We got the YouTube and the Twitch chat synced up here. It'll sync up. I think it just takes a little bit to load when it kind of trips up here. Oh, wait, hold on. I have show only stream events. Accidentally selected. That's probably why. All right, now try it. Give me a chat. Give me a chat. Give me a chat, any chat. There's a fake one. There's Tim. There's Michelle Tim. All right, we're good here, I guess. Okay, we're good. All right, we got the dual chat loaded up. We'll say, hold on, we'll just say really quickly for social stream. Tailor it to social stream ninja. Okay, so we'll actually, sorry, we're gonna take this. One more attempt here, one more attempt. One more attempt. Copy that. Paste it here. Boom. Give me a chat. Looks the exact same. Oh well. All right, moving on. All right, today we're going to, I think what we should do is we need to do some formal investigating onto FastAPI and how to use it. And yeah, so well, let's go ahead and get this going. Let's look up here, FastAPI. Okay. All right, which one should we watch here? This guy? I usually like this guy's stuff.
Vibe coding is a trend you don't want to miss out on.
Oh, we don't want to miss out on vibe coding. What?
What if I told you that you can go from idea to live app faster than you've ever imagined using hosting of horizons powered by AI?
Bro, this stuff is this is why people think it's such a scam.
And describe what you want to create, and all you need is the initial prompt.
What is this?
First fully functional
This video today is a full FastAPI crash course. We're going to get started by talking about what FastAPI is and when to use it compared to
This
Jet.
guy's staring into my soul.
To move on to start building an API, we're going to discuss basic concepts like async and await. We're going to discuss HTTP methods, status codes, query parameters, path parameters, post requests, and so on. We're going to cover all the basics that are relevant, and we're also going to learn how to do validation with Pydantic in FastAPI. We're going to cover quite a
I'm
bit
getting
in this video
vibe
today,
coding
so if you
ads.
like
It's
these
like
sorts of
taken
videos,
over.
Let me know by hitting a like button and subscribing to this channel. But now, let us get right into it.
How's the volume?
Alright, so we're going to learn FastAPI in this video today, and the goal of this crash course is to be concise, simple, and quick. So we're going to learn things as quickly as possible, as simply as possible, without missing important details. And because of that, I want to get started right away with some basic definitions so we can move on with the coding. What is an API? Now, we're not going to read through this Wikipedia article here, but you can see API means Application Programming Interface, and I'm going to give you a very simple, high-level description or definition of an AI by using my paint. Basically, an API is just a set of endpoints. So let's say you have some server, and on this server you have an application or an API running. Then you have certain points that you can connect to, endpoints, and these endpoints have certain definitions or signatures, you could say. So you could have endpoint A, endpoint B, endpoint C. And if this is a to-do list application, for example, that could be the endpoint for creating a to-do. That could be the endpoint for getting information about an already existing to-do, and that could be an endpoint for deleting a to-do. Now, this here is the API. So that is to-do, for example. Now, this and that could be an endpoint for deleting a to-do, for example. Now, this here is the API. So for deleting a to-do, for example. Now, this and that could be the endpoint for getting information about an already existing to-do, and that could be an endpoint for deleting a to-do, for example. Now, this here is the API. So that is your stuff that you can connect to as a client, as another server. I can send a request to A and I can get a response back, and that's the role of the API. Now, we can get all technical about this and say, okay, the API is literally just the endpoints and the definitions of the endpoints with all the validation and so on, and the rest behind the scenes, so all the object relational mapping in the database layer, all the utils, all the business logic is not part of the API, and technically speaking, that's correct. That's the backend. The whole thing is the backend. But colloquially speaking, when we talk about the API or the backend, oftentimes these are used interchangeably, even though technically speaking it's not entirely correct, but the whole thing can be considered the backend. The API is just the endpoints, and the stuff behind the scenes is the rest of the backend, but oftentimes we refer to the API as the whole thing, just so you know what we're talking about here. Now, what is FastAPI? FastAPI is now a Python framework that allows us to build such APIs easily, and it's optimized for high performance by using asynchronous, by using an asynchronous server. So by using the ASGI standard behind the scenes. It's based on Starlet and Pydantic for validation. Again, we're not going to go too much into all the details here, like what is exactly Starlet and why is this making everything so much faster. The basic idea is when you have asynchronous servers, they can handle with a single worker multiple sessions, multiple connections at once, because they don't have to wait for one task to finish to do another one, especially if the task is IO bound. So maybe here again, let's open up my pane for a very brief explanation. Let's say I have a task here, and this is the task. It starts at some point, and then I have to do something. And let's say here I make a request to a database, for example, an synchronous request now. So, okay, now let's do the D here, DB. So I have, at this point here, I start using a function or start executing a task. Here I make a request, and I have to wait some time, let's say until here, to get the response from the database. Now, this right here is a section of time that I'm not using. I'm just waiting for a response. I'm not calculating anything. I'm not using up memory, or I'm not using up CPU resources, rather. I'm just waiting for a response from the database. That is IO bound, so input-output bound waiting time, downtime. Now, if I have a synchronous worker, what still happens is I have to basically wait for all of this to finish before I can start my next task. However, if I'm doing asynchronous programming, I can use that downtime to already get some work done, and I can do that with multiple asynchronous tasks, and I can just, multitask. Even though it's not multitasking, it's more or less switching back and forth between tasks quickly to get them done in a more efficient way. That's like the high-level explanation for why asynchronous programming is oftentimes faster. So, and this is exactly what FastAPI does. So the important thing now to cover here, this is a question that a lot of people have, is when should I use FastAPI, when should I use Flask, when should I use Django, or stuff like Django Ninja maybe, or Django REST, or Flask RESTful. How do I decide what to use? And I don't want to do an in-depth comparison here. I can do that in a separate video if you guys are interested in that. But the TLDR summary of that is use Django if you want to have a comprehensive framework with a lot of batteries included. So you have ORM, you have a lot of complex built-in features that do a lot of stuff for you. You don't have to code anything from scratch. It's very, very comprehensive, and the batteries are included. That's the Django approach of things. You can use Django Ninja if you want to use that Django batteries included approach for a simple API. So that would be the use case for Django. You want to use Flask if you want to have maximum simplicity and flexibility. In Flask, nothing is given to you. You start from scratch. It's a little bit like the Arch Linux approach of programming. You get nothing and you can do everything. And FastAPI is mainly for high-performance API. So if you want to build something that is going to have a lot of users and has to do things efficiently in an asynchronous manner, FastAPI is the best thing to create a simple API and to then have multiple users, a lot of users at some point using the API. Now, don't get me wrong, you can still build a simple API with Flask. You can still also build a simple API with a few users using FastAPI, but these are like the main use cases. FastAPI if you want to have a high-performance API, Django if you want to have a comprehensive, complex framework that does a lot of things for you already, and Flask if you want to have like this Arch Linux from scratch approach where you do everything yourself and you install extensions and you code your own modules for everything because nothing is given to you, and because of that you also don't have limitations. That would be the TLDR version. Now, maybe one thing that you also want to understand, for those of you who are really new to programming, why do we only code an API? Because an API doesn't really do much for you as a user. So if I have my API here, this is my fast API, let's say, or let's say it's a Flask API, Django API, whatever it is, this is just some API.
Okay, I already know about
and of course, this is
APIs
not
and
a
stuff.
web
I
application.
need.
So
I
I cannot
want
just,
to.
actually before that, I forgot that we need to make sure we have everything installed. So we're going to say pip or pip3 install, and you want to install fast API. In my case, this is already installed, and now we're going to open up main.py. And here now we're going to get started with the very basics. So how can we create a very simple hello world fast API? We're going to start by saying from fast API import fast API like this, and then we're going to say API is equal to fast API. And in order to define now an endpoint, what we have to do is we just have to specify the HTTP method. So we have, let's say, 4 important ones. There are more than that, but we have get, we have post, we have put, and we have delete. And in a nutshell, Categorization here is you use get when you just get information, so details about a to-do, for example, or all the to-dos, just getting information from the server. Post is when you create something, when you submit something new to the server. Put is when you change something, so that would be creating a new to-do list, that would be changing an existing to-do, and delete, as the name says, is for deleting stuff. So delete request would be deleting a to-do. And all we have to do now is we have to define what kind of endpoint do we want to define. In this case now I'm going to say api.get, and then in parentheses,
Yeah, it's on
define
1.5
app.
too.
So where is this endpoint?
It was
And I'm
too
going to just use
slow
slash
on
for the
Rome.
default. And below this decorator here, we're going to define a function. I'm going to call it index. And this function will have a return value. And the return value is whatever the user, the client, gets as a result from calling this endpoint. So let's do a JSON object, message, and the message will be hello world. So that would be a very, very simple API. Now, how can we run this now? We can go out of this and we can say, in earlier versions of FastAPI, we had to do unicorn and then main and then app, so main colon app. And then we can also specify a port if we want to, something like 4x9. And that would be actually API, sorry, not app. And that would run now the API in my browser. So I can click on this, and when I go to that default route, I get this JSON object message hello world. Nothing too fancy here. Now, what you can also do in newer versions is you can do FastAPI run def, or was it def run? No, sorry, it was FastAPI def and then main.py. That has the same effect. The only difference here is that we get some more information, and also I have to specify the port because I already have an application running here. So let's go again with port 4x9. And you can see now, same effect. We see exactly what's happening. I can still open this up, and I can still get the same response. That's how you can build already simple APIs. This is already an API now. So let's get back into it. What
That
we
was
can do now
fast.
here is we can define different sorts of endpoints. And
Way
I'm not just
easier
talking
than
about
Flask.
the HTTP methods. We can also define synchronous and asynchronous endpoints. So some endpoints will do something that is CPU bound. For example, I could have an endpoint here, API get, and then, I don't know, calculation, let's call it. And this method here, this function calculation, does something very complicated. I don't know. Let's say pass, and let's add a comment here. Do some heavy calculation. Now, it doesn't make sense to, and then return result, for example. Whatever the result is. It doesn't make sense to turn this function into an asynchronous function because it's CPU bound, which means that it has to do the calculation. There is no downtime. It's going to just have to do what it has to do. It doesn't make sense to turn this into an async function. So it doesn't make sense to say async def. However, if this is a function, for example, that gets data from a database, gets data from DB, then maybe the endpoint is get data or something, then it also doesn't necessarily mean that we should make it asynchronous. It depends on the kind of database request. Now, depending on what engine and framework you're using and what database you're using, this might be a synchronous request or an asynchronous request. If the request is asynchronous, what you want to do is you want to say async def, and then you want to do await, and then whatever the request is, right? So something like this. And if it's not an asynchronous request, you want to just do def. So some endpoints are going to be asynchronous, some endpoints are not going to be asynchronous, they're going to be synchronous. In FastAPI, you can mix these two approaches, and doing this correctly will speed up your application. So depending on what you're doing, if you're, again, querying some API, if you're sending requests, for example, to some third-party API to get some information about the weather, about stock prices or something, this is something that you can do in an asynchronous way with asynchronous requests. That would be a typical use case. And this is what FastAPI excels at. Now, one thing that you need to understand is that FastAPI itself, since it's running on Starlet, is still going to be asynchronous even if all your endpoints are synchronous. So there's still going to be some speed up even if you define all your endpoints as def and then functioning. But yeah, if you have something...
Let's go over Fast API. I am trying to learn it for the first, like a touch for the very first time. I'm trying to learn it for the first time. I know how to use Flask somewhat. I want a really bare bones and detailed breakdown so I can understand it for myself. I want a focus on sync versus async. I am trying to get to convert my TLC simulator to a web framework so others can access it. I don't want you to show me code that is not necessary for, I can never spell that word, for learning, just enough to know what FastAPI does. All right. FastAPI is a modern high-performance web framework for building APIs with Python. Since you're familiar with Flask, think of FastAPI as Flask with built-in support for asynchronous code, automatic data validation using Python type hints, and auto-generated docs via OpenAI, Swagger UI, or OpenAPI, Swagger UI, and Redoc. Let's start from the ground up, focusing on what you need to know specifically about sync versus async. Hey, Smiley. That's what we're trying to figure out right now. So good thing you're here. We're about to dive into that here. Well, let's start from the ground up, focusing on what you need to know specific about async versus sync. What is FastAPI doing? FastAPI receives HTTP requests like Flask does, routes them to functions you define, app.get with the route, returns responses, data, HTML, etc., uses type hints to validate and document input outputs, can handle both sync and async functions. Okay, sync versus async in FastAPI. This is the most important thing to understand. Synchronous runs line by line, blocking the server until it's done. Works great if your function is CPU bound or does not wait on things like network, file, or database calls. Asynchronous. Async def await some function here, then return the value. Okay, let's focus on other request be let's other requests okay, asynchronous lets other requests be handled while waiting, non-blocking. Lets other requests be handled while waiting, non-blocking. Only useful when you're doing IO like HTTP requests, file reading, database queries. Use async def plus await when your function calls other async things like an async database call. If you're not waiting on something, async def has no real benefit and can make things slower. So when should you use async? For your TLC simulator, ask yourself, does it do IO, fetch data, read files, hit database, async helps? Is it just math or simulation logic? Stick with sync. What does FastAPI add over Flask? It adds async support, type-based validation, built-in auto docs, faster performance than Flask, and return JSON, easy but even cleaner. Interesting. So, in my TLC sim, I wrote, and I'll go to generate the TLC plate for in mat, right? This does some math calculations over some large-ish data sets. Could this qualify for an async operation? Good question, and the answer here is important for deciding how to use FastAPI effectively. If your TLC simulator is doing math-heavy calculations like generating coordinates, simulating spot movement, etc., using matplotlib to render plots, processing large-ish in-memory data, then no, this is not a good fit for async. It's CPU-bound, not I/O-bound. Why? Async is for when you're awaiting something external like a database or API, and you want the server to handle other requests in the meantime. But your matplotlib based simulation is CPU intensive if the user processes a lot. it uses the processor a lot. Blocking, it runs all the processes at once and can't be paused or split without threads slash processes. No awaitable, not awaitable. It doesn't use async libraries internally. Keep your function in sync def API. Okay, got you. Interesting. Oh, we got another raid here. Oh boy. I didn't even see you guys. Simon, welcome back with the raid. I appreciate you coming in with the raid again. You're awesome. We got the dual chat synced up, so just in time. Thank you guys so much for being here, both on YouTube and Twitch. Tip my hat to all you guys out there. My name is Michael. I got a degree in human bio, minor in chemistry. I graduated back in 2021. Becoming an old man over here. Yeah, I graduated in 2021. I'm 26 years old. I work as a formulation chemist for a biotech company where I make biological controls. And I'm starting to bleed into bioinformatics and getting into that field. Hopefully, I am, trying to, make that bridge into development and software and, and data analysis. I I've been teaching myself about 10 months now, and it's been going good so far. We wrote a thin layer chromatography project. This is our latest project. I'll show you guys that we're going to now. We're learning FastAPI right now to um, put this out as a web application for people to also use and whatnot. And so this is our current project where we have developed a thin layer chromatography simulator based upon a solvent retention factor. So as you can see in black here, your solvent is growing at a 100% speed rate, whereas these other fluids or compounds are generated at a random rate for the retention factor. And as you can see, number 3 here is extremely non-polar. If this plane was a polar plane, and this green one is extremely polar, so you're having like attractions moving these elements upwards through the medium, but this one is stuck down here. It ain't moving hardly at all. So it's a pretty cool simulator. It's it's kind of nice. So thank you guys so much for being here. We're leveling up this project. Was it yesterday? 2 days ago, we added the randomization to the x-axis to have like a little bit of buffering, jittering as we go up and scale to kind of mimic liquid as we soak through this medium. So it's pretty cool. So thanks so much, Midnight Simon, for the raid. What tool is that you're using? That was just Jibbity, the almighty orb. TLC simulator, does it chase waterfalls or has it learned that one? Don't go doing that. I think that's the lesson. Hey, how's it going, Desert Fox, Icy Black Deep? Thanks for coming in. You guys are awesome on Twitch. You guys are cool. Yeah, we're trying to learn about FastAPI. We learned about Flask, but we've never used FastAPI, so um, we're trying to get into that here. The only TLC reference I know is like the the what is it, the Learning Channel on like cable. That's I'm I might be too young. I'm not too young, but I'm not too old. I'm kind of in the middle range. 26 here. Thanks for coming in. You guys are funny. All right, let's keep on trucking here. Um, okay, so how should we set up the let's keep on watching here. So asynchronous.
Storage. So I'm going to say here all underscore to-dos, and of course this is going to be initialized every time from scratch when we reload the application. So every time we restart this, it's going to be empty, or it's going to have the default values. But what we're going to do here is we're going to provide some dictionary objects. We're going to have here to-do underscore ID is 1, and then to-do underscore name is going to be something like, I don't know, sports, and then to-do underscore go shopping. Retrieve, edit, create some new stuff to it, append stuff to it. That is going to be our simulated database. Now, we can actually leave this endpoint here just for fun, but we're going to now, if this was now a database and I can do an asynchronous request, it would make sense to turn this function into an asynchronous function. So async def, and then await whatever you do to retrieve it from the database. We're going to keep it as def now because we're just loading it from a list. So we're going to say for to do in all to dos, if to do ID If that is equal to do ID, then we're going to return a dictionary where we have result and the to do. As simple as that. Now we can also make another endpoint. I can copy this here and I can say the endpoint is just slash to do's without any path parameter. Then I can say get to do's without any parameter here, and I can just return all to do's. Now actually I can also return just a couple of to do's. So the default way here would be to say
So get to do's with a passed in to do ID is what he did up there.
And what this basically means is slash, and I'm going to use curly to now create a new one, app get, and we're going to say slash to do, or slash to do's rather, and then we're going to want to retrieve a specific to do. And we're going to do that by using something called path parameters. So this here is the path, that here would be the default path, and here now we have the path slash to do's slash, and I'm going to use curly brackets here to define a path parameter, which is going to be the to do ID. And what this basically means is that now this part of the URL path is going to be treated as information that I can use in the function. So the function could be something like get to do, and it's going to get to do ID. So basically what happens is this here, what the user passes after the second slash is going to be what I get here into the function as an input. And then with this, I'm going to do whatever I'm going to do. So if this was now a database and I can do an asynchronous request, it would make sense to turn this function into an asynchronous function. So async def, and then await whatever you do to retrieve it from the database. We're going to keep it as def now because we're just loading it from a list. So we're going to say for to do in all to do's, if to do ID, if that is equal.
Okay, so he query parameters.
And slash to do's slash 2 would be this now, and the 2 is passed to this function here. However, a query parameter would be something like this, where I say question mark, and then, for example, first underscore n is equal to 3. That is also part of the URL, but it's not a path, it's a query parameter. I use the question mark to say I want to specify first n being equal to 3. And I can do that here by doing the following. I just pass it here, first underscore n. I pass this, and maybe I have a default value of none. And I don't specify it in the URL. So that is going to make it a query parameter. So I can say here if first n, then I'm going to return all to do's, but only up until first n. And otherwise, I'm going to return all to do's. So before we continue with all this,
Yeah, Scary 6, we're trying
like.
to.
So let's go ahead and run this on port 9999 again. Now let's say slash. And let's go to do's. This is going to display all the to do's here, as you can see, to do ID 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I can also specify here slash, or not slash, question mark, first underscore n is equal to 2. This, of course, is a problem. Why is that? Oh, because this is now the next thing that's important to mention. We need to specify types, because if we don't specify types, what happens is this is going to be treated as a string. This is not treated as the number 2 right now. So this is not treated as the integer 2. It's treated as the string int. So first n is an integer. This is now a type int. Validates the types of integer. Let's reload, and now you can see I get 1 and 2. And if I pass something that cannot be parsed like this, I'm going to get an error message, detail in parsing. Input should be a valid integer, unable to parse string as an integer, input whatever I passed. What I passed was unprocessable. 1 work, because now it's looking for the string 1.
Okay.
So let's create the next endpoint. This time it's going to be a post endpoint api.post, and we're going to post to the same URL, which is just to do's, and this is going to be our create to do, and we're going to pass here a new to do object. Now for the type hint, this is what I mean by we're not going to do it properly yet. I'm just going to say this is going to be a dictionary. Now this dictionary, of course, doesn't specify what kind of dictionary it is, what kind of fields it has, and so on, and what kind of data type the fields are, but this is just going to be the to do endpoint now. So this is something that you don't want to do in FastAPI, because usually you want to create a schema with Pydantic, which we're going to talk about in a second. But the general idea, of course, stays the same. You have the dictionary contains the data. All we have to do here is we're going to say new to do ID is going to be equal to the maximum to do ID for to do in all to do's. So we go through all the to do's here in a simple comprehension. Actually, I think we need to, do we need to? No, I think this should work like this. Plus 1. So we take the largest ID that we already have in our all to do's collection here, and we add plus 1. And then we just say the new to do is going to be equal to a dictionary. The to do name is going to be equal to, or actually, sorry, to do ID is going to be equal to new to do ID. To do name is going to be equal to do name, and then to do description, yeah. And finally, of course, we're going to add this to the list. So we're going to say all to do's append.
The speed up makes him look like he's typing like a maniac.
This new to do to know that it was created. So this now is an endpoint I can actually use to add new stuff to my quote-unquote database. Now, one thing that's interesting here, I can mention this right away, is how would you do that now without having a front end? So let's run this. Of course, when I visit this URL, so to say, if I visit this endpoint slash to-dos, what's going to happen is that I'm just going to be using the get method. Whenever I just visit a website, I'm using the get method. How would I do anything like posting onto this endpoint? Now, you can, of course, do that with curl. You can, of course, do that with Postman. But FastAPI offers something very convenient, which is automatic documentation and automatic, basically, an automatic UI where you can send requests. So we can just say localhost 9999 and then slash docs. And this is going to open up Swagger UI, which is our API documentation. So what we can do here is we can see all the endpoints that we have. They're also, if we have provided enough information, they're automatically documented. So here, for example, you can see this is an integer. All of this is already documented. And when we add schemas, when we use Pydantic, we're going to get more documentation with more details here. But the interesting thing is I can also click here on try it out. And when I do that, I can just provide here,
Hey,
for
Zas.
example, execute this, and then I'm going to get the result as the response body here. And this is cool for the get methods, but it's necessary for the post methods if we don't want to use another tool like curl or postman. I can just go ahead now and say try it out, and then I have to provide, of course, manually now here all the fields. So I would do something like to do name, and then I would do something like new to do, and then to do description would be new. So let us briefly also implement the update and the delete method, type hinting, and we're going to say for to do in all to dos.
Okay, so
Let's go with the
update and delete.
method. It's going to
Just
be
using
API
basic
dot
Python to delete things from a database. Giving an int type, so you use type hints to specify in FastAPI. Use these braces to specify certain paths, or this is the path, but then path, what was it? Something he described it as. Okay, so yeah, you just use Python to do it all, which doesn't seem too bad. And you just just use these various methods.
And
you don't even have to specify post or something request as. You don't even have to verify post or get request from like you do in Flask.
We need to import a couple of things. We need to import from typing. So from core Python typing, we want to import list and optional. We also want to import from enum, which is also core Python. Enum is just enumeration, which means that we need to import a couple of things. We need to import from typing. We need to import a couple of things. Out 3 JavaScript stuff, but the functionality, the logic is in the API, or in the backend, I should say. So let's now do this properly. How would we do this if we were to actually write good code? Now, for that, first of all, we need to import a couple of things. We need to import from
there's
there,
something.
then execute this again, and you can see by the front end to display this properly, to list all the to-dos, to design beautiful HTML, CSS, JavaScript stuff, but the functionality, the logic is in the API, or in the backend, I should say.
Okay,
here we go. Let's now do this properly. How would we do this if we were to actually write good code? Now, for that, first of all, we need to import a couple of things. We need to import
buckle up, boys.
From typing. So from core Python typing, we want to import list and optional. We also want to import from enum.
Okay.
Enum, which is also core Python. Enum is just enumeration, which means that we have, or actually I want to use not enum, I want to use int enum. We basically just have certain terms, like if we have priorities of to-dos, which we're going to implement here in a second, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, but they also have names like low, high, or high, medium, low. That is what we're going to use enums for, just a more restrictive data model so that we can pass these terms. And then we're also going to use Pydantic. Now, I think Pydantic is already installed with FastAPI. If not, for some reason, you can run pip or pip3 install Pydantic, and you're going to install it onto your system. But once you have it, we're going to say from Pydantic import, and we're going to import the base model, which is important, and the field. So the base model is important because every schema that we're going to define, every model is going to be based on the base model, and field is just a nice little tool that allows us to provide descriptions and constraints and so on for our data models. Now, what we're going to do before or even creating anything else here, after we create the API, we're going to define our schemas, we could say. So first of all, I want to define the enum. We're going to have a new field, priority. I just want to showcase how this would be done. Priority is going to be an integer enum. Very simple. It's just going to have low equal to 3, medium equal to 2, and high equal to 1. That's it. And I'm going to use this now.
Okay, so you can just set data models with this enum class to basically have integers referred to or resembled as string values for like high, medium. Okay.
So we want to have a class which I'm going to call
inherit
from base. We call this to do base because we're going to inherit from it. So to do base is going to be based on the base model. So to do base itself inherits from Pydantic's base model. Again, Pydantic's base model is just used to define any schema. nothing too special about it. We just use it here as a basis. And now I can define the fields that I want to have in a basic to-do. And the fields I want to have are going to be to-do name, and to-do name is going to be of a certain data type. It's going to be a string. So now my to-do is no longer just going to be any dictionary. It's going to be a model. It's going to have certain fields, and one of these fields is the to-do name field, and this to-do name field has the data type string. Furthermore, this is not just any field. I can define it further. I can say ... This is a required field. I can say the minimum length of the name has to be 3. The maximum length of this is going to be, let's say, 512. This can make sense, for example, if you have a database with a corresponding table where a to-do name is going to be of medium equal to 2 and high equal.
Okay, so he imports
model
this
is going to have certain
base
fields,
model.
and one of these fields is the to-do name field, and this to-do name field has the data type string. Furthermore, this is not just any field. I can define it further. I can say ... This is a required field. I can say the minimum length of the name has to be 3. The maximum length of this is going to be, let's say, 512.
Oh, it's basically just like a model constructor class for receiving certain inputs.
A character or a character of size 512. That could make sense to then define a maximum length here. And important description is going to be name of the to-do. Now, in Pydantic, the description has a number of different use cases. First of all, here in FastAPI, it's going to be for the documentation primarily. But if you use this, for example, for OpenAI structured output, which is now not the topic of this video today, this actually has an effect because it allows the model to see what this field is about. So this is not just some useless documentation stuff. This is going to be enforced. When we define something is going to inherit from to-do base, or is part of the, is actually to-do base instance, or something that inherits from to-do base, then we're going to expect to-do name to fit this requirement here. And then we're also going to say to-do description is also going to be a string. It's going to be a field, ... We're not going to have any constraints here. And we're going to say description is equal to description of the to-do. And finally, we're going to say priority of the to-do is going to be an instance of priority. And this is the cool thing about Pydantic. You can actually combine these things. So I don't have to say priority is now an integer. I can say, look, there is another thing, an enum priority. I can also say, by the way, there's a base model list of priorities or something. And then I can use that as a type in Pydantic as well. So now I can say priority is a priority, and I can also now go ahead and create a different model where to-do base is going to be the type of a field. So I can have a to-do inside of another data model, and I can just refer to it as to-do base. This is something that is quite useful. Now we're going to say this is a field, and a field is going to be required, but we're going to provide a default value, which is going to be priority.low. So if we don't specify anything else, the default is going to be low, and the description is going to be, again, priority of the to-do. So all of this will be used now in the documentation, in the automatic documentation already, which is super interesting. We're going to see that in a second. Now you can notice I did not specify the ID. Why did I not specify the ID? Because we're going to have different actual data models that we're going to use now. This is just the parent class that we're going to inherit from now, and we're going to have different data models for the different endpoints that we're going to use. So for example, we're going to have one to-do create. Which fields are necessary to create a to-do? In this case, we're just going to inherit from to-do base and do nothing else because that is exactly what we need. So that is the parent class, but that is going to be the exact same class. Just for the sake of a better structure, we're going to inherit from it, define it as create, done, and then we can move on to the next one, which is to do update. And to do update is going to inherit from to do base, or actually not from to do base, sorry. It's going to inherit from base model because it's basically going to be like to do base, but it's going to be optional. So if you're working with Pydantic for the first time, this might seem like a little bit over the top and useless to define such a schema for every single type of request and response that we have, but this is actually useful and the professional way to do it because you can validate input and you can also validate responses and do things in a structured way easily by doing that. So again, the idea is I define this parent class here, to do create is going to inherit from it, and we're going to have another one here. Let me just define it here for a second, which is going to be to do, and to do is going to inherit also from to do base with a couple.
Okay, so let's kind of see what we can do here. Okay. So this is where we are. Let's go onto our project, get status. Ooh. Status. Okay. Let's get some tunes going here too. Let's get some tunes going. All right, welcome in everybody. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day so far. Thanks so much for joining me. My name's Michael. I have a degree in human bio, minor in chemistry. Been teaching myself how to code for about 10 months now. We've learned a lot. Completed Harvard CS50X, CS50P, read pretty much all of Pro Git. We've been reading almost all of, about 3/5 of the way done with data structures and algorithms in Python. We're about a quarter of the way into fluent Python. So we got a lot under our belt so far. We got a lot to go though. We're learning some FastAPI right now to link up our current TLC thin layer chromatography simulator to the web. Okay, we're clean here on dev branch. So let's go git checkout -b. We'll call this devs. We'll check out on dev. We'll say this is called FastAPI init. Okay, and then let's go. Okay, I think we're fine. So now we're in our. Okay, here. So let's go. Let's add into our just our overall file here. Let's work out any requirements. .txt. Let's put this down here. Let's add in. How do you? Anybody know how to add in? What do you? How do you do requirements txt stuff? Do you just list out FastAPI? Like that? How do you do it for requirements? Anybody know? Example, please. Okay. You give the version. Okay, so what all do we have in here? We got NumPy. Okay, that's all we got so far. Yeah, the requirements txt. Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's go git. No. All right. Now we're on this branch here. Just install the packages you need, then run pip freeze requirements txt. Oh, you can do that. Huh. Look at that. Thanks, dude. Balaj, thank you. That's the clutch comment. Clutch comment. Pip freeze. I'm gonna add that here so I can remember it. Oh, if you do that, it'll write the txt file. Aha, nice. Sweet. That's awesome. Okay. Let's keep trucking here. Okay, so now let's go ahead. So for those that do front end stuff, what's the proper structure for project structure? We're given our current directory structure for, doing this. How should we go about, structuring this? So we have our virtual environment, our source here, right? Which houses our classes, which has our compound class, right? For that I just use so I can use these methods basically to quickly get some data points out of them. And when the user creates a class, this is what we use to assign it to it. So then we have our main kind of plots here. This is where we're generating the plots for the actual chromatography simulation. So where in this directory should we put? Oh, okay. I like that. Let's go like this. Let's add that in. Okay, so Holy Luck. I like that name. That's a good name. It's actually a really cool name. It's like it could be like a band name. So you can do pip freeze requirements.txt. This will show the requirements. I can never spell requirements. Okay. Then you could do pip freeze. This will make the requirements file. And then if you do it one more time with 2 arrows, this will append without replacing file content. Interesting. I don't like this song. This one's annoying. Where's the... Anybody want to be lucky number 1790 on YouTube? We are one sub away from 1790. Let me know who got it. All right. Gotcha, Balaj. Then in pages, you got all your pages. Okay, so pages. Okay, so we'll do a folder called... So in source we'll call pages. Okay. And then you don't need to do with 2 arrows. It was just extra info because your comment got removed with the single arrow. Oh, gotcha. Okay, so we have pages now, and within pages, we're going to, you said, and then in pages, you got all your pages, then you... Okay, so now, what kind of file do we make? We make just like main.py. So in here, he has as from. So we're going to need to do pip install FastAPI. Okay, from FastAPI import FastAPI, and then he has pedantic. So from pedantic import base model and field. Then he creates a FastAPI connection with the FastAPI class object, and then he does this priority thing, which we don't need to do. Okay, so then let's give because we have a class here for our overall compound. So then let's go ahead, I'm going to take this compound here, I'm going to go into my pages main, I'm just going to paste this here as a comment, and so I can visualize this, and we'll go class compound base. We're going to have this be taken from the base model, and then we're going to give these fields as compound name. It's going to be a stir equal to a field object required minimum length is going to be just an integer 1. Maximum length, we'll just give like 15. And description, we'll say this description for this is this is the name of the compound. Okay. So next we have an x coordinate, so compound x coord is equal to a float, which is a field that's required. We'll give it a description. You have to give it a minimum length, what, of at least 2, right? To give a decimal, the decimal and the value in the tens place for 0.1. And then we'll give a description of, we'll say the x coordinate. The x coordinate of the compound. Okay, then this is going to be very similar for just the compound y coord, float field, the y coordinate, and then we got a retention factor. My compound has float, right? No, I have ints. Retention factor. But in my plots, I'm taking my x value and I'm generating data and applying a random buffer to it. Because I'm generating a buffer low and high, and then the buffer itself, based on that low and high, a random number, and appending that value as the x data. Because then they're going to give a... Because I'm trying to... This is a float. I guess this is an int. This is also an int. This is the compound retention factor, which is a float. Like 2. So this is a 1. Length of the y coordinate. That can go minimum length of 1. Okay, so then this is the retention factor of the compound, right? So then he inherits from this to update the compound, but I don't really need to do that. So then he starts making API requests then. Okay, so then at API dot get post. Okay, so get input. Oh, these are just methods. Okay, so we're gonna get what is this? This is going to be just TLC simulator, right? We get the TLC simulator. Trying to learn this here. Okay, so we get a TLC simulator page. And then we have def oh, these are just getting when using FastAPI, if what request do I do just to have a home page? Response, email response, read home, welcome to the home page. Response class equals to HTML response. This sets up request route for home. Okay, let's just route home then. Def home. We're going to return just some HTML here. is this? Run the app, visit this, and that's your homepage. Run this. Type annotation. Like that. Well, that ran. How do we view it? I don't know. What's the difference, Balaji? Like, we were using Flask last time to build, like, a website. Is it not the same thing? Am I, like, in the wrong ballpark here? Do you use FastAPI to serve as the back end for websites? Okay, so the thing is, if we need, so what should I have a directory called front end then? Or how should I organize it for HTML? Where should I put my HTML? In my pages, right? Pages is where my HTML goes. So let's have home.html, no, index.html, right? Let's get some docstring type going here. Let's do an h1 and let's say just hello. Yeah. Well, there's no more, better time to learn than now, Mr. Balaji. Okay, so we are... Can I go to live server and then go to here, index.html, go live. Oh boy. You can return a simple HTML in FastAPI using the response HTML. Oh, okay. The cat going crazy for some reason. Okay, so let's do... How should we structure this page? Let's set up... How should we structure this page? Should we do... We'll do a div out front. We'll call this div... Oh, I forgot my HTML. Is it title? we'll do, no, it's class, right? An ID, right? So the class is going to be equal to, this is going to be equal to the header. The header section. We're going to have an ID of that's fine, I guess it's just header section. We're not going to have any unique header sections, right? So in here, inside of our div, let's create a I guess our H1 header, where we're going to have the TLC or thin layer chromatography simulator. Okay, so that is our header section. Okay, then we're gonna go and we have a header. Now what do we need? So we need a section on the left for inputting retention factors and adding compounds, up to 5 of them. And then on the right, we need a section for, okay, so let's do a div class equals to content section. We'll give this a unique ID of content section 1. We'll open up this div. Okay, inside of this div, we're going to have 2 containers. So a div as well, where we'll have this first one have a class equal to compound selection. There's only going to be 1 compound selection area, so we don't need a unique ID. We'll open that up, and then we'll have another div here where we'll have a class equal to the, this is going to be the, right, the graph, right? So this is going to be the, okay, class equal, what should we make this? This is going to be our compound selection section. This is going to be graph visualization. Why is this red? There we go. Okay. Yeah, we got rated on Twitch. We got 16 people. We had like 40 in here at one point. Still waiting on lucky number 1790 on the YouTube sub. Who wants to be lucky 1790? Wear your badge with pride. Okay, we have a content section. This is section 1 for the content section ID. And then compound selection, graph visualization. And then inside of here we have those. Okay, so inside of our content, contents here for the compound selection, we need a H2 header where we'll say this is going to be compound selection, right? And then we have an H2 header. And then we have compound selection. So I want like an original entry box or just a button to add a compound, right? So let's just do a button. So this header, this is going to be class equal to page title, or this is going to be we don't need a class for this. Compound selection button. This is going to have a ID equal to add compound. Button. And add the compound. Okay. And then so I want it to where if the user presses the button, an entry box comes up. Is that, would that be CSS styling or would that be HTML? How to add button commands in HTML. Oh, form. That's a good idea. I forgot about forms. And then JavaScript. Okay. Oh, shoot. Forgot about that stuff. Okay, so compound selection. And then add a compound. So let's just make a form rather than. So this is going to be a form. Where we'll have ID of this form is going to be compound selection, and this is going to be compound selection section. Okay, so compound selection on this form. Okay, so can you show me some basic form at which we want to be calling and what the method that we want to call on? So this doesn't go anywhere. There's no action to This where my knowledge with front-end stuff kind of falls off, as I... Oh, we crossed the line, 1791, let's go. This is where my, radio buttons, okay, checkboxes. Don't show me code. I want to learn how to do it myself. I am wanting a button that, when pressed, lets a user create another entry box to allow for additional entries. You create a button box and click adds a new input box, like for more names, emails, items, etc. Well, you'll need HTML. Div, you need some JavaScript, listen for a click event, and add it to the container. Huh. Hey, Sticky, no worries. I really appreciate you coming in on Twitch and saying hello. You're awesome, man. Thank you for being here. I've been teaching myself for about 10 months. I started in June of 2024. I took Harvard CS50P very part-time over the summer of 2024, finished at the end of the summer, and then started this channel and started going every single day, doing everyday study sessions, really dedicating myself to learning and progressing as fast as I can, but doing things the right way and trying to really make sure I learn things and not hack my way through stuff. I use AI, right? But I with this approach, I'm using it to show me the steps I need, and then I'll solve the steps and how to get there. I use it for the structure and for because I don't have a professor or a TA or something to go to, so I kind of use it as like a TA, and a TA would never give me answers, but it would guide me in the right direction to learn, and so that's kind of my approach. So input fields in a button. Okay, so we have, so this is our container, a class compound selection section, and we have like a div and a button element. So we have a button element. We give an ID equal to the ID is going to be equal to the button of add compound button. So this is going to be add compound, right? So do I need do I need like a JavaScript file, or do I do it in line here? I don't know hardly any JavaScript, so this is gonna be a little difficult. Like a div and a button element. I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna say step 1 done, made a div and outlined the sections. Right. Boom. Clean structure, use of a class, and great use of class and ID names, and everything's sectioned off nicely. Let's add that. Let's get that add compound button to actually add an entry field when you click. Select the button. Create new input. Add it somewhere. As I wish. I can avoid JavaScript. How could I avoid JavaScript? I always try my best to avoid JavaScript because I don't know why, I just avoid it like the plague. Side note, do we even need JavaScript? Yes, if you're okay with page reloads or using a predefined number of inputs without reloading the page. Want to try writing the part that grabs the button by its ID? I am very, very unfamiliar with JavaScript and will need heavy guidance in the form of coaching and teaching, not showing and telling. Let's start with where I should even write this JavaScript. That's how I thought it said that's how I like to learn too. I was like, what? Get out of here. Anyways, I have to head to bed. Best of luck. Catch you next time. Paulo, thank you so much, Sticky. Ooh, big 5 big booms for Sticky. Boom, boom. Thanks so much for coming in, dude. I appreciate you for joining me here, and I'll see you again probably tomorrow. I'll be back I stream every single day. Where to put your JavaScript. You got 2 main options in the same HTML file inside a script tag in a separate JavaScript file that you linked to your inner HTML. I'm gonna move my that you link want to start. We can go with option 1 for now. Write the JavaScript at the bottom just before closing the body tag. Okay, let's go with that for now. Script. Okay, we're gonna open a script tag. That way, the HTML will be fully loaded before your JavaScript runs. Super helpful when your JavaScript needs to grab buttons and divs. Where would you guess the script tag should go in your HTML? At the bottom, after the page has fully loaded, so you are not trying to access unloaded content. Nailed it. Exactly. If the JavaScript runs before the HTML loads, it won't be able to find your button or divs because they don't exist in the DOM. That's right, the DOM, the document. That's the tree of loaded elements. Putting the script tag at the bottom ensures everything is in place first. Try adding right before the body element. Okay. Roger. It's not public yet. I have it private. Balaji, though, I do have a public repo that we just finished up for my most recent project, the Small Business Manager. It was my CS50X final project. So go check that out. It's a really cool. I built an entire Tkinter Python graphic interface from scratch. All on my own, or not, well, all on my own in terms of, my own code and everything. And I, wrote the code for the algorithms for, handling the automation of the, income statements and balance sheets, as well as all the data validation, everything for getting that user input for those various tabs. So go watch that video linked on my YouTube channel for the demo, and then check it out. And in the description below, I have a Discord, or in the profile of my Twitch, I have a Discord where you can join and get access to a roadmap of my entire learning journey, from every book I've read live on stream, to every note I've taken, to every course I've done, weekly breakdowns of them. I also have a section for that project, the Small Business Manager, where we have it now as a community open source project, where we're going to do review pull requests. We have a couple that we need to review that we're going to do this weekend, and then merge together on dev, and hopefully release a new overall release, and just keep expanding the project as a community, and take this opportunity that we have to leverage, our community here to, be creative and see what we can build. So if you want to participate in that, I give you all the please do, and it's in the Discord. Sweet, let's get your first JavaScript line in. Grab that add compound button using its ID, add compound button, and store it in a variable so we can work with it later. Think, in JavaScript, to select something from the page, we can use that function that lets us query the DOM. Based on the name of the ID, add compound, what kind of code do you think you might be used to tell JavaScript you're grabbing an element from the page? Specifically, grab the one with that ID, store it in a variable maybe called add button. Okay. So far, okay, so let's see. Let add compound button equal to DOM dot, is it DOM dot? DOM is it add event listener dot DOM? See, this is where I just don't know JavaScript. No, because we don't want to add the event listener is document. Okay, document dot document dot contains, maybe get element by ID. Element string. Okay. Add compound button. Fingers crossed. Yo! We're writing JavaScript! JavaScript! You just declared a variable, add compound button, reached into DOM with a document.get element, and grabbed the exact button. You're officially talking to the page with JavaScript. Now you've got the button. Let's listen for a click on it and run a function when it happens. What kind of function or method might you guess JavaScript uses to listen for events to click? What might that line look like if you wanted to add a command button to do something when clicked? Document dot add event listener, the type of document event map, key of document event map. I'm gonna call in a lifeline here. Mr. Holy Luck, anybody? So if we do document.add event listener, No help you can do. Ah! See, I've written probably like 10 lines of JavaScript ever. So, key of document event map. Type key of document event map. What does that even mean? The listener. So what we're listening for. Okay, so let's do an add event listener on the add compound button then. Oh, okay, so it's a click. So we add compound button, add event listener, click for the event to listen for. The listener object. The HTML element. So this is the add compound. So we wouldn't want to put it here though then. Is this DOM dot add event listener, or is this, or did I have it right? Now the function we need to run when button is clicked. Okay, so now the function, so this is where they did those lambda stuff before. Or, so can I just do like an add def? How do you? See, I just don't even know what it looks like. I'm just guessing off of straight like intuition. Should I look up an example? Yeah, MDN. That's a good idea. Let's look up the MDN docs. See, I've been studying Python exclusively for 10 months. My theory behind it all is that I really wanted to establish a solid foundation in one. I chose Python from the beginning just because it was involved in my field of chemistry and data science and biology, so I could incorporate it. It was easy to learn for the most part, and the syntax was simple-ish. So I that's what I went with at the start, and I really wanted to focus on getting a very solid understanding of it before like branching out and moving on. So now this is why 10 months down the line, after I'm pretty fluent in Python, I'm just now kind of expanding into other things, because I think now by expanding in other things 10 months down the line rather than 2 months down the line, I'll be able to just expand quicker, is my assumption. Okay, so this is the add event listener method. The add event listener method of the target event interface sets up the function that will be called whenever the specified event is delivered to the target. Common targets are element or its children documented in window, but the target may be an object that supports events such as the RDB request. The add event listener method is the recommended way to register an event listen. It allows adding more than one handle for an event. The method works by adding a function or an object. So add event type, listener, options, use capture. A case-sensitive string that representing the event type to listen for. Click, okay. The object that receives a notification, an object that implements the event interface. This must be a null, an object with a handle event method, or a JavaScript function. Okay, so we do my element, click. We're going to call the function here. It's often desirable to reference the element of the event that was fired, such as when using generic handler. Okay, so then what we do is we open up the function. So this is the function we're going to write here. What is this E here they have? Oh. Yeah, but okay. The event. It's an object with event data. I love Canadian bacon, by the way. It's one of my favorite pizza toppings. Okay, so you said it's an object with event data. The event, okay. So is this right? I put function here as what I want to call. And then this is what I want to write. So now I need to write the function, right? So what kind of function method might you guess? Okay, so let's add this and see what my next step is then. Okay, here is what I was able to put together. I'm on the right trail and so close to perfection. You nailed the using the click, wrapping the response in a function. Now here's a tiny tweak. In the JavaScript, when writing a function in line, you need to include the parenthesis after the function. Okay. Even if it takes no parameters. Got it. Let's think like a builder. When someone clicks that button, what do you want to create? Probably something like an input element. Maybe give it a type of text and maybe a placeholder or class. Okay, so let's say let new entry, new compound entry equal to a input? No, you can't do that. What do you think are the steps in plain language or JavaScript is to create a new input element? Add that input to your HTML, maybe right below. Orion, what's going on? Welcome back. Yeah, we're looking up some JavaScript today. I'm really bad at JavaScript. I've only probably done maybe 30 minutes of JavaScript total compared to my 500 plus hours of Python so far. So, definitely not even close. But yeah. Okay. So we create a variable. Can we create? Okay, so we want to create a new, so my whole goal is that when you press this button to add a compound, it creates a new entry box for you to add a new compound, and you can add up to 5 of them. You can continually, add a compound, so to basically, generate a new compound every time. So I have to ask the document to create an element for me. Okay. So DOM or document dot create element. Okay, so let's look up what's going on here? Document dot create element. The create element method creates the HTML element specified by local name if local name isn't recognized. A string that specifies the type of element I want to create. So I go add element is this function. Document create element with a div. Okay, so we create element quote input. Okay, so we create element, an input, or sorry, an entry. Is it entry or input? Is it entry? Div. New div, append child, new content. So they created the element. New div is this create element. They gave it some content. A document create text node. Okay, so and then they added the node to the div. And add the newly created elements content into the DOM. Current div equals document div1. Insert document.body insert before new div current div. Okay, it's an input. So we're going to create an input. Okay, so now let's give it that. So next step here. You've got the event listener created a new input on button click and stored it in a variable new compound entry. Next challenge. Your new input exists in memory, but it's not on the page yet. You need to append it to the HTML so you can see it. Okay, so we got this button. So we need to add it to our content section. So let's say, so what's the difference between the const and let? Why do they have const and let? Why do I use let? Why are you using it? So let, compound selection section, equal to the document dot get element by ID quote just give it a unique ID here. Okay, so we'll say compound. And then we want to insert it before the new button. So we'll say document dot body dot insert before let me look up the insert before method of the node interface inserts a node before reference node. New node reference node. So insert the new node, which will be the add the new compound entry, and this needs to stay within our function though. So the new compound entry, and then we're going to put this right above the add compound button. Const cannot be muted. Let can be mutated. Okay. Let can be reassigned. Okay, interesting. Thank you guys for that help. Okay, so let's take what we got now. Okay, here is what I got. You're killing it. Seriously. All right. Maybe we can hit 1800 tonight. Oh, I don't know. I might be wrapping up here shortly, guys. I might have another like 5-10 minutes in me before I wrap it up. I have a degree in human biology and a minor in chemistry. My name is Michael. I'm 26 years old, and I work every day 9 to 5 as a formulation chemist, where I build biological controls for a biotech company in a huge lab where I manage, teams of junior chemists and, build various biological solutions and matrix, calculations and whatnot. And I code after teaching myself how to code and program after my job every single day. So I am putting in a lot of hours. So thank you guys truly for being here, following along, subbing, liking the videos. You guys are awesome. I stream every single day. Okay, got a reference to the container. Tried to insert through the document. You're grabbing the compound selection section, but in your HTML, it's a class, not an ID. I added the class name as an ID. Thanks, Ariane. I appreciate you. You're awesome. What do you guys like to do? What is your guys' background? Let me know what you guys do, what you guys are learning. Are you students, professionals, just hanging out for fun? What's going on with you guys? Now that your container has an ID, you can go ahead and change this line to append child. Oh, compound selection section. Oh, append child. New compound entry. Right, okay. This tells the browser, hey, take this new input and stick it at the end of the compound section. Okay, let's see what's happening here. Yo! Woo! We wrote some JavaScript to add, but woo! Let's go. So how can I limit the entry to 5 though? This is so cool. I'm having a lot of fun with you guys. It's just ChatGPT. I've just installed the Gipity app here, and then you can enable an option space to get a kind of like a spotlight search on the actual AI itself, and then I just always specify, just hey, don't show me code, just walk me through this as I'm learning. I'm a student, teach me rather than show me. Really try to tailor it to, give guide you through rather than just cheat your way through because I'm trying to learn this and really understand. Balaji is a student. Nice. What you studying, Balaji? Computer science, obviously, but what more specifically? Okay, so nice. Woo! Senior software dev trying to figure out what I can do outside software. Nice, Orion. That's really awesome, dude. I'm outside software trying to creep my way in. You're trying to see what you can do outside. See it seems like everybody's got the grass is always greener approach. Okay. So then let's go ahead and really quickly before we end for tonight's stream, this is a lot of improvement. Let's go ahead and add in so we have an add button compound. Let's duplicate this down and say remove compound button. Compound button. Okay, let's duplicate this down. Let's say let remove compound button gets the remove compound button. We get the event listener. We're not going to create an input. How do I remove an input? So we don't want to generate a new input for a create element. Document.remove child. Delete. Empty. What do you guys suggest if we want to remove an entry option? What do you guys think? Okay, there is a dot remove. So we don't want to generate a new entry, but we do want to get, so we want to find the current section, right? So we want to say get element by ID. So here, we want to take this remove compound button, put it there for a click, and the function we want to use is we don't want to create a new compound entry, but we want to get the most recent option. So compound entry equals to document dot get element by ID. Well, it doesn't have an ID because we're generating them. So let's say I'm starting to slow down. My brain is. I'm getting tired. We're pushing 2 hours and 40 minutes here. So we have compound entry is equal. So if you want to get the entry that's currently listed, and if there are any, if it's null, then we don't do anything. But if there is one, we're going to remove it. Let's say when you create an input field in above function, add an ID or class there, then remove section by ID. So you have to create an ID then. But how do you, if you're dynamically creating things, how do you generate unique IDs? You know, if it's pre-coded in. So in this one, we get an element by an ID for the button. We listen for a click on that add button. We then say, okay, if you get that listen, in that listen you go ahead and create an input field and then insert that input field into the document here. On a remove, so then on the create element input, when you add one, you can store it in a list array and remove the last element in the list. Huh. Or insert a div with X button and input inside. Or insert a div with X button. Oh, to delete itself on that row. Okay, got you. So that's a good idea too. So then rather than removing a single compound with a remove button, let's instead we generated the entry. So let's generate a div. So we'll say let new compound container equal to document.create element quote div. Okay, so we create the div element and we create an input element, and then we're going to create let new compound delete button equal to document dot create element, and have this be quote button. All of this will remove unique IDs. Yeah. So then if we create a container with a div, an input, right, for the compound entry, new compound name entry, we'll create a new compound RF entry, or we'll say data entry for an input, and then we'll create a remove button to remove that if you don't want it anymore. Then we get the element of the compound selection section, and we add the new compound container, which we're going to go new compound container dot append child on. Is it just a singular node? Can you give a list of nodes? New compound name entry. New compound data entry, and then new compound delete button. And then we add that to the container. So now if I refresh and add this, we get this. So then we'll create an element button. We'll give new compound delete button dot how can I give a on create element, how can I assign, text or class or ID like in HTML? You can assign text IDs in similar you do it. Div.id is my ID, div.class name, text content, quote, remove, pound. Huh. Equals no parents. What? It's a property, not a function? Text content. Oh. Oh. Thank you. Thanks, Canadian Bacon. Ah! Yes! Woo! Perfect. Yeah, look at that. So then we'll have to do the events for removing a compound. That looks pretty good so far. How do you guys like that? So my vision is that you'll have kind of like a table. I might format this HTML to be a table, so I can have these be a table, so I can access each of these elements individually within those columns and rows on the table or whatever. So a table view, um, right? And then on the right side of the page will be the actual matrix or the plot that's displayed, that's generated for those, right? So you'll give the name of the compound, which will be put right here as the tick mark, and then the RF value, which will be put here in the data portion, which will be the factor at which we, the speed at which we scale here relative to the solvent, and then we'll generate the graph, and then we'll populate it on the right side of the page. How's that look? Hey, this is fun. We're cooking here. Let's go. This is cool. All right, thank you guys so much for joining me here. I really, really appreciate everybody being here. Today was a really cool stream because this was our first stream getting the dual chat working. Shout out to Mr. Mahan, one of our Discord mods, for linking me and being passionate about the stream, and linking me some resources to get that set up. And it took me a couple days to get myself going, but we've got dual chat going where we have YouTube and Twitch shared, which is really, really awesome and fun. So great to have everybody here. We got a raid today, which was super fun. So thank you all the new people that followed along and joined me. Again, my name is Michael. I am 26. I have a degree in human biology and a minor in chemistry. I work as a formulation chemist where I make biological controls, synthesize cerebral spinal fluid, synthesize, rheumatoid factor, artificially or whatnot in the lab, various other controls for testing, patient diagnostics like diabetes, pregnancy, drug testing, various other aspects. So a lot goes. My job encompasses a lot of different products, but it's the processes are all fairly similar. Um, but I teach myself how to code every single day after that my 9 to 5 job, and I appreciate you guys being here and hanging out with me so much. You guys are awesome. I will be back tomorrow around 7 p.m. PST, where we'll continue on with our learning and building of the projects. Right now, I'm really into just building the projects and doing Leet code. We just released the Small Business Manager project. You can go check out that demo video live on my YouTube channel right now, or check it out on GitHub to contribute to the community version of the project, where we're going to be really revamping and getting it going. But we've been building this project. I built this algorithm or whatever for doing this visualization in just 2 days. And then now on our third day of work, we're actually getting a front end going and trying to get that and learning about FastAPI and stuff. So a lot of work to go still, but a lot of work has been done. So this is really, really awesome. I really, really appreciate everybody being here. Like I said, anything else we want to note? Yeah, for those that are new here, I usually just read books to teach myself. That's been my main resource of teaching myself, and obviously using AI as a teacher, and helping me to learn rather than speed my way through this. I really am trying to learn and actually understand the things. Hey, hello, Sushi Trash. Thanks for coming in and leaving a Twitch message. You're awesome. But I read all the Python crash course in the back over here. You guys can't see it. Python crash course. We've got, eventually we're going to get to Python machine learning. We are reading right now live on the channel Fluent Python. We're about a quarter way through this big boy. Oh my god. And we are reading data structures and algorithms in Python. We are about 3/4 of the way done with that book. And then we have read almost all of Pro Git. And so we are getting some experience with Git, and we're using that experience so far to take the opportunity to do things the right way. Like right now, we're working in a branch for developing fast API initialization and front end work. So I'll merge this into our dev branch once I feel comfortable with our working iteration of implementing, getting the front end with the fast API going. And then yeah, so we'll just go ahead and git add here, git commit, and go frame front end began HTML began the frame the front end, right? Is front end hyphenated? Well, let's just push this. Right, so where I'm really focusing on making branches, merging those in appropriately, committing when applicable and necessary, um, and just doing everything the right way, hopefully, is my goal here. What's all these instances of this? Um, I could recommend some core low-level books if you wanted to. I have some cool free resources, which is really good. You can check them out. Awesome, dude. Yeah, I'll check those out. It's a really good book to learning how programming languages work. Yeah, dude, Sushi Trash. Join my Discord. It's in my profile. I have a ton of resources and books in there, and a community resources section. Throw that link in there if you wouldn't mind, so everybody can get access. And I'll be sure to check that out in the Discord. Thank you so much for that recommendation. You're awesome, man. Oh, I don't have a command. I'm sorry. My mods and Mahan has been trying to get me to do the commands. I don't have a Discord command. It's in my profile of my Twitch. Sorry, I'm not a. This is not a professional, uh, you know, uh, stream. I'm just a normal guy here that's just trying to his best to learn how to stream as well as learn how to code. So, for the first 40 minutes of the stream today, we were trying to figure out how to get the chats linked up to a dual chat. So bear with me, guys. I really appreciate all your help. And you guys are honestly, like I say over and over again, you guys are truly the backbone and what keeps me coming in every day and hanging out. So, anyways, I'm going to sign off today too, Orion. Thank you guys so much for being here. It's 11 p.m. for me tonight, and I got to get up for work tomorrow. So, anyways, I'll be back tomorrow, 7 p.m. PST, where we'll continue on with our front end, getting this going, where we'll have the ability to add compounds and then display and submit a compound formula or whatever for an actual generation of a chromatography simulation via our backend plot here. So, we'll go ahead and link that up and keep on going. So maybe in about a week or 2 weeks' time, we'll be done with this project and moving on to our next one. So good night, you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Mahan, Balaji, Orion, Sushi Trash, Holy Luck, Canadian Bacon. Who else on the Twitch? Sticky, you're awesome, dude. Desert Fox, um, Ice Gyob, Ice Gyob, Lilo Zine, Spetnods. Thanks for the raid again, Midnight Simon, Right Arm One, Icy Black Deep, Balaji, Scary Sticks. We got. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed your message, Ui Nguyen. Scary Sticks, the Zos, Smiley, uh, Prekar. All right, you guys. Shout out to all you guys. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Let's go ahead and should we can raid someone else. Let's go raid somebody. How do you raid again? It's command raid or slash raid with their username? Mahan, how do you do it? Let's go browse software development.
I guess I just want to practice different positions. That's what I want.
I want to do that too. Live streaming, learning guitar, playing my guitar. That'd be
Sure.
fun too.
I guess I kind of know one now.
How do you slash raid username? Okay.
Because I've already learned it.
Who should we do? Which guy is working hard here? I don't know. Everybody looks so cool. I want to. Why is it doing this? channels. Why is he in software and game development? I gotta pick somebody. Is anybody doing Leet code? I can cheer him up. Anybody doing Leet code? Anybody doing Leet code? Leet code. No, no Leet coders tonight. Unfortunate. Well, I don't know. I can't decide. Oh well. I like this guy, Z.A. Shaw. He looks cool.
Actually, I don't think you need this tar pit file anymore.
I like his little mic setup he's got going on. Let's do him.
Oh yeah, yeah, you need it for that.
Z.A. Shaw.
Yeah, that's all I need. Let me just confirm that runs.
All right. Did it go through? I think it did. There we go. Come on, show me the thing. I want to see if he.
Oh, nice. We got
Crack
a
a
raid.
smile.
Michael, I didn't see your raid, man. Thank you.
Oh, here we go. Let's go.
Let me see. Let me shout out Michael. And let me see. What you been working on? Learning some JS tonight. Heading out. Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks for the raid. Welcome everybody else.
Nice.
I'm currently making a game, so let me just show the people who just showed up. So this is the game I'm making. It's kind of like a retro raycaster, lots of horror elements.
Oh, that's cool.
Putting it all by hand in C++. Let me go over here.
Oh, wow.
Not the graphics layer. The cross-platform graphics is a pain in the ass.
Wow.
But, yep, looks like this. And we're working on the new combat system. And get sounds in here. It's turn-based, but pretty quick. And we can now set people on fire or hit them with lightning.
Oh, that's cool.
Maybe. Sometimes the lightning doesn't work. And let me find somebody else. And so the whole system has like full AI and things like that. There you go. There's lightning.
Kind of like Pokemon.
So it's like I'm using like janky
Mystery.
sprites I wrote myself. So that's the game. But I'm also playing another game I wrote on top of the game, which is called Turing Star Pit. So Turing Star Pit looks like this.
You guys ever played Pokemon Mystery Dungeon?
I like poke around mystery dungeon. Yeah, yeah. Or another one I think of is like all those old SSI games where it's like real fake 3D, you know, Dungeons and Dragons, Eye of the Beholder. Okay, so while I work on this game, I play this other game I'm calling the Dark Souls of programming.
This guy's like Steve Jobs.
It's super weird. All right, so basically this thing watches me code. We got a timer, we have an HP bar, and this is like the build status. It's just a shader, just like I threw it in there because I'll come up with something different, but I kind of like that one. So the idea is I have to complete a feature in whatever time I picked and before I die. And if I die, I do a get checkout dot. So like, let's say currently I'm working on this, right? And I make this mistake. When you save, it detects that you saved and it runs your build. So right now it's running. and then it hit an error. So now it says that's an error condition. I have this much HP, and so on. So then I fix it. Runs the build again. And I play a little floppy disk
cool.
sound. Alright, so there we go. So then to give you an idea what happens when you die, all we gotta do is come over here and get rid of like that. And this is C++, so this will cause an entire meltdown of the compiler. So you get like, I don't know, actually sometimes it'll do so many errors it just like dies. Yep, so there we go.
I know, this guy is crazy.
Make it build and then do the error again.
He's one of those like, I wonder how long he's been doing this for. It's probably a while.
And it's funny because I wrote the game and then like it's pissing me off that I keep losing. So you know it's working. I think that'll send me over the edge. Almost. One more time. And actually,
All right, you guys, I'm
let's
heading
do
out.
that.
I'll see you guys later. This